Hey guys, Psykho here. Just wanted to go ahead and say a few things before we got it kicked off into the fundamentals course. The first thing is that I want to go ahead and thank TELUS. TELUS is a telecommunications company, but they're getting more and more into esports. So inside of their Discord server, we did this entire course to about 103 people live. TELUS sponsors a lot of events just like these courses. They also do cash prize tournaments about every few weeks, if not every month, and they're really amazing. So if you haven't already and you want to attend courses like this, or you want to go ahead and participate in tournaments or other community events, make sure you join the TELUS Discord server, which I'll link below in the description. Besides that, shout out to Medify. Medify is a coaching platform that you can see coaching in just about any single game that you can think of. I am one of the coaches, particularly for Apex Legends, which has made this event also happen. So without further ado, let's get kicked off. And remember, I have chapters made on the YouTube video here, so if you're looking for something specific or you want to skip ahead or you want to look for anything, I've made sure that you could do that with ease. Glad to have all you guys here. Pleasure to really be here as a whole for TELUS, being able to represent the greater Apex community in terms of a pro level, being able to kind of coach and being able to be part of this wonderful community that we have in Apex in general. So what are things that you want to learn about competitive Apex? So, how to be a better IGL, macro rotates, how to play better as a squad. We have how to rotate again here. Some stuff about play styles, team fighting, roles in team fighting, contesting fundamentals, rotation strategies, picking smart ISO fights. One should be accountable when something kind of goes wrong in a team fight or a situation, choosing a POI. Awesome, awesome. How to go from being a ranked player to kind of playing customs and tourneys, how to play in high quality lobbies as well as low quality ones. Oh, I love that one. When to push. All right. Yeah, no, these are great. I really love kind of what you guys got going here for that. The first thing is that you guys talked about sort of roles, right? Like who needs to do what in a fight, what that needs to look like, how to better IGL, things like that. That all has to do with like role dynamics and the importance of playing as a team effectively, understanding exactly who needs to do what, why, when, so on and so forth. The other thing that you had mentioned is sort of play styles, right? What kind of play styles that you can do, or how to utilize legends to adapt to certain situations and certain things, and how to play your role well in with a legend, right? We're also going to talk about macro. We're going to go into all the detail about what you want to think about when choosing a POI and just sort of the basics of what goes into that. And you're also going to find out a lot about sort of macro concepts in terms of different POIs, different examples, why they are the same way, why they're different, so on, so on. Understanding how to adapt in a lobby, right? So somebody had put in here like how to play better in like harder lobbies, different types of lobbies, how to adjust to the play style and things like that. That's what we call lobby scaling. We're going to get into that. I actually have a really good case study from my team and sort of things that we applied in rules to do well in both the championship and playoffs at LAN, and how we did well with those particular aspects of learning when to change a character, learning how to play a different way, and changing in accordance to the lobby, right? And then kind of to wrap those things up, we'll talk about best practices, ways that you can improve as a player. No matter if you're just kind of starting out looking to get into comp, like, somebody had said in the chat, like, how do I get into customs? How do I get into tourneys? Things like that. That's sort of where that'll come from, is sort of how some of that can function. And what best things you could do as a player, as an individual, to do better with what you're doing in terms of your career, if you will. And then lastly, I'll be doing a Q&A, answering all your questions and being able to kind of give you the best guidance and advice that I can with whatever your goals might be. Last thing I kind of just want to say in terms of that, disclaimer, these are fundamentals, right? And there are going to be certain things that some people are going to know, certain things that other people aren't going to know. I tried my very best to make sure that we left room to potentially do other things at a different time. I did macro basics rather than an entire advanced aspect of how you want to look at macro. So we might save that for a different time, but you'll get everything you need in terms of POIs and thinking about that type of stuff. And also in regards to, as I said, any type of player here, whether you have experience or whether you don't, there's going to be something you're going to be able to take away here. Fundamentals are fundamentals. We practice them on the LAN stage. We practice them in Pro League. We practice them at tier 2. Anything really. It's all fundamentals, right? Okay. Teamwork stuff. Okay. Talk about team roles and dynamics and things like that. So The first teamwork concept we want to talk about is the team roles, all right? And those are basically what's assigned on an individual's abilities. And it's all about how they carry out their unique roles on top of that, right? And then team synergy, right? This is when our team roles and the way that we go about things is essentially efficient. So much so where everybody's doing the right thing. So if you're the anchor, you're consistently doing that. If you're the ALGL, you're consistently doing that. And you're basically doing your duties to the best of your ability. So team synergy is when you're making up for each other's weaknesses with strengths or making up for one another's legends, whatever that might look like, or responsibilities, and you're doing well with them. So synergy is when you got the ball rolling, everybody's making up for each other, doing well with that. Team roles are specific to just individuals and leadership as well as the abilities that you have on the team. And then lastly, team chemistry. Okay, so team chemistry is simply just the psychological thing. Okay, when you feel attuned to your team, when you treat them like friends to a degree, when you have this type of relationship with them where you trust them, they're accountable, they do all the right things, they're there to practice when you are. You basically like them, as if they're sort of your friend, right? So team chemistry is just all about feeling at home psychologically with your team. So that's pretty much the teamwork concepts that are very important to understand when we start going over this stuff, because synergy, getting the ball rolling, chemistry is important for the psychological aspect of each player and each team. And then team roles are obviously specific to abilities as well as people from people leadership from the top down and things like that. So examples here, right, of all these types of what you call dynamic roles or roles, if you will. We have the IGL, right? The IGL leads team strategy entirely. We rotate this way. We fight this team. We prioritize looting. We prioritize getting to zone. All of that heads on the shoulders of the IGL. The IGL is just the impeccable leader that does basically everything at the start of the game of where they want to go, what they want to do, how they want to do it. Co-IGL, not every team necessarily has a co-IGL, but co-IGLs are very good because they share in some of those leadership responsibilities and they help in some of the decisions. And so we'll see some examples of that, as we go about. But more or less, the co-IGL is due to look at the landscape in a different lens potentially than the IGL. The IGL might be going out and looking at something else like scouting and looking at positions, seeing what's kind of going on. Well, the co-IGL is sort of looking a different direction or sitting somewhere. They're looking at the game from a whole different lens to add the suggestions, aid in the leadership's ability to actually see options for when they play. Then we got the fraggers, right? They just specialize in sort of killing stuff and doing damage. But fraggers are important because they actually prompt a lot about what kill potential is. So if they see, teams are flying in a certain direction, they see they're in a bad spot, they see that a team is vulnerable, that's really their job to call that type of stuff out while also leveraging their mechanical abilities to do as much damage as possible. In the last two, we have an anchor, which is basically just somebody who holds a position, stabilizes the whole thing, makes sure nobody can come through a certain area or a certain way that will secure your rotation and your position overall. And a flex is basically any and all these things. A flex player is basically able to adapt to any of these type of roles and basically make it so they fill whatever the need of the team is. So everybody can technically try to flex, of course, but different people are going to have the ability to do one of these roles more effectively than another. And so that's why, again, we talked about team synergy a bit earlier, because what you have to learn is not necessarily trying to push yourself to do something that you're not good at, and instead exuding in those strengths and doing what you are good at, right? And looking at that role and looking at that responsibility and doing it well, because it takes three to tango. You're going to need to be a team, right? This is a team game. Team roles of the BR Demons. Oxygen Esports, the BR Demons. Of course, you guys probably know Aiden and Reeds. They've pretty much come to all the TELUS tourneys and pretty much won all of them. But also, we basically came out, third in playoffs and LAN, right behind DarkZero and TSM. Basically, the whole story of that is going from free agents all the way to going through pro league signed and then upgrading to another organization and then playing in the playoffs, right? And playing in the championship. So everybody here, has a different role. I basically selected everybody here. So we have, Reeds on the left. He's our co-IGL. Vane in the middle. He's our IGL. And we have our anchor flex, if you will, which is Aiden on the right. We're going to talk about in-game leadership, show that in action and really display what it's all about and how it all works. Okay. So in this particular clip example, we just got into Skyhook. We have Vayne on Catalyst, and we have Reeds on Seer, Aiden on Horizon. This ring is going to close in the middle of the street, and we were able to secure this building, keep the height, make it secure. There are teams that are coexisting in this building, but we understand that pretty well at this point. There are going to be fights that are going to break out in different areas, specifically in the back area where the fence is. It's going to be teams that are going to fight there. There's going to be teams that are underneath us, you know, in terms of like on the bottom of the building where the car is and the street is. And then there's obviously the teams that are on our staircase and stuff like that. So I'm going to go ahead and play this out so you can kind of understand with me, and we'll kind of go along with how in-game leadership counted in the situation and won us this game and what you can take from it.
Listen, boys, I'm gonna evac us later, okay? Okay. We're gonna evac, and then we're gonna queue up. And we have to wipe this side of zone. This side of zone. Okay?
Listen, look at the valve, look at the valve.
You guys understand?
Yeah, we queue it, then evac. We queue it, then evac. Place the evac early. Yep.
Should I queue us on the roof?
You need
a... Throw a queue down first. Throw a queue down first right now. And then we bounce off this zip line.
You can Horizon ult them too. You can...
And so something that's very interesting about this, Vayne is like the pioneer of like what is zip lines, like using evac towers to go from one point to another in a way that you probably wouldn't expect it. We won 2 games, probably 3 in the back of my head I'm thinking of right now, in Barometer, which used to be our POI, because there used to be a Barometer zone that would end towards what is, you know, former antenna, pylon, coastal camp, that kind of area. And we would use a evac tower on the bottom to basically jump on top of another building and to come down and sort of win the game. You know, Vayne basically implemented that theory here, and his mindset pretty much is they're going to fight on the edge here in Diner, by the wall. Teams are going to get congested. But the whole other thing is the teams that exist right now that are on the opposite side of the wall are basically in the street. And then there's obviously the teams inside of our building on the bottom. So if we go and we take this zip line and do kind of what Vayne wants to do, and they wipe that side, they could turn around and chain that play together and basically wipe any team behind them, because everything that's going to be behind them is going to be in the street and therefore very susceptible to being easily killed because they have the high ground at that point and have a lot to play versus the street does not.
You can land on there.
Kill them, kill them.
Oh, what?
Castle's one.
Got dead. Swapping.
I walled off the zone. Play left side of my wall, okay? I'm climbing over. Looking left.
Going left,
On the car. One's knocked. Can we swing it?
80 on one. Hard one. Last guy.
And so everything gets used there, right? Everything is basically the way that it should be, right? We use the queue in order to kind of go across. You know, Vayne understands that he's on Catalyst. So he can kind of make some space there as well. But the big thing that Vayne does here that's really great is when they're done wiping that team, and that was already a plan that they made. They were on the roof. They had time and space. As I say, like, you know, you have a moment to think, you have a moment to look at the landscape. You use that time to create a play, and then you do it. So he created this play with evac, went over the wall, killed that team. He understands he's going to have to turn around, respond to the other team. And when he has to, he understands exactly what needs to be done. He uses his abilities, walls off one side of the zone, so that way he can make sure he secures a side of the zone to fight on, or, you know, splits apart potentially some enemies that are divided in the street. So he calls that out, immediately puts it down, tells his team exactly where to look. He says, look on the left side of the wall, play on my left side of the wall, right? And they're like, okay. And then nothing's on the left side of the wall. So they go and they peek right. They shoot the people on right. They notice that they're behind the car. They call out all the details. Person behind the car, they're dead, blah, blah, blah. Like, they basically have a whole system that just happened. Proactive play into a reactive IGL moment where he used his abilities and immediately called exactly what he needed them to do off of those abilities. So that's a really good example of in-game leadership. Calling things out, creating a plan, executing it, and making sure everybody's on the same page at all times. And so now we're going to get into a in-game leadership example with Reeds. The big thing about how he plays is he's very edge-oriented. He understands what teams are going to be a threat, what teams need to be wiped, how they potentially can navigate, you know, in a rotate that's congested, sort of fighting the back-to-back stuff. So he kind of is very good at prompting Vayne, or IGL, of how you can necessarily wipe his team, wipe another team, still live and get to a spot in zone, right? Like pretty much he has it in his head. And he just has to kind of suggest it, put it out there, stuff like that. But he also is responsible for making sure that, you know, if things happen to Vayne, the IGL, let's say he gets knocked or let's say he gets really damaged, Reeds has to essentially take charge in that situation and be able to be the in-game leader for whatever that temporary moment is. Whether he's down and he's got to look for, whether Vayne's down, he's got to look for rotate, whether he's got to protect, you know, one of his teammates or whatever. It all comes down to him being able to coexist with sort of the IGL, make up for where the IGL isn't doing things and prompting them with suggestions and ideas that will be helpful and taking over in execution as need be.
Ryzen hood dead.
Nice.
I'm leading.
Me too.
No wall, no wall.
We're gonna have to go out with smokes. We're not in zone here.
No one left. Right side's not really looking. I'm bang ulting these guys. We have to slide up to this.
Okay. Good smoke, good smoke. Wait for the bang ult, wait for the bang
I'm
ult.
playing left side. We have deep angles left. Deep cover left.
Okay, I'm coming.
Lots of space left side.
Should we just swing left completely?
Just play left. Just play left. We win the game here.
Come.
Just chill.
Yeah.
We win the game.
So Reed's basically coming out of the tunnel, right? Coming right out of the tunnel. He's already thinking about this walk up. He's like, you know, we don't have wall anymore. Might have to smoke that side. We have to be wary coming out of this tunnel. It could be a problem. Okay. So he immediately is already coming out of the tunnel. Like, you know, everybody's looting and stuff like that. He's like, look, guys, this is going to be an issue if we come out this tunnel, right? We need to use our abilities and use our situational awareness to make sure we live. Then once they get out of the tunnel, the smoke gets popped off. They hug the left side. Vayne initially calls it where it's like, hey, we got deep cover left. We're hanging out. If you need to get angles, this is a good place to get them. He then moves up again, right? And Aiden kind of joins in that too. But the whole thing is, they don't need to move up that much, and they don't need to do anything crazy to win this game. One good lesson about leadership and understanding how a game's going to unfold towards the end is understanding that you don't always need to do something. You could generally let a lot of other teams do things around you before you have to do anything, and you could basically leverage that in order to get the best out of the placement and in order to get the best out of the fights when they actually break out. So Reeds calls here, we don't need to do anything. We could play that deep cover that you called about on this left side, and we could win the game right here. Everybody else is like, you know, you're completely right. Completely agree with that. Everybody's basically on board from that. But an original idea from Vayne, which then he advances off of, is then called back into question by the co-IGL because it could be a problem. And he recognizes it after the co-IGL pretty much kind of says it.
Game.
Need more life. You guys have it. 14 bullets.
60.
Someone can zone wrap this.
I think we have to just wipe this in smoke. I threw a smoke. Sliding forward. 106. Two down. I'm swapping. Rep R1. Last guy.
Last guy reads.
Good fucking job.
That was close.
Go in-game leadership. Pretty much prompting what has already maybe even been said, or prompting if there's a problem that's going to be ahead, just like in the tunnel, and being able to actually give the team some direction when it really is needed. And IGL can only communicate and do so much, so co-IGLs can sometimes be helpful for that. But depending upon the IGL, they may or may not want one, or find one particularly useful with their playstyle or communication or whatever that might look. Anchoring. The most boring yet most important role of all, okay? In Apex Legends, no matter if you're playing a pub, ranked, comp, doesn't matter. The game is an FPS. It's a bunch of head glitches and a bunch of peaks. That's pretty much the definition and the idea of it, okay? So when you boil it down like that, and you understand that there's just angles to use, angles to shoot from, all you're mixing in is abilities. That's pretty much the only difference. So the abilities will either take you off a position, gain you a position, deny area, or give area or space. However you want to put that. Anchoring, though, and making sure you maintain a position. Some positions, if you do not maintain them well, and you let people either come behind you, come in front of you, or become a threat, you're going to lose that spot and potentially force yourself into a worse spot that makes it so you can't win a game. In this particular situation, the ring is going to end closer to the wall side. And what we're doing right now is we want to protect the command center from any teams that are going to walk into it. Because if a team walks into command center and we have an issue with that, and we potentially die for it because we're not taking the space on the side that they're going to come from, then we basically might die for it, and then we don't have our rotate anymore because we're just dead. So if you're better prepared, being proactive about it, and anchoring your position and making sure that nobody can come to it, that's going to aid you in getting closer to entering every single time.
Yo,
Yeah.
out here.
Okay. Come back, man. Back.
And so Aiden, he's got the spikes on the door. He's good the other outside door to the right side. And I think he's good the door to the left. But basically, he's put everything here to create a buffer to allow his team to come to him too. Because as you can see, Vane's all the way on the left side near that side of command, near the wall. The reason why is because he wants to make sure nobody walks up from spiders, but also so he can see everything going on and stuff like that. He'll come over, but the whole idea is that Reeds is somewhere in the middle. So basically our Bangalore IGL scouting, looking ahead, right? Making sure there's no issues there. Reed's basically in the middle, making sure he can kind of call what needs to happen and what needs to kind of go down, making sure that he can support either, Vane if he gets pushed or Aiden if he gets pushed, which is more the likelihood, right?
I don't think I should right away.
No, you should. You 100% should.
Have to back up.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna swing on those left
They're
angles.
gonna have like nothing in. They're gonna have nothing in. They're gonna have
swinging-
literally nothing in.
swinging
Except
left.
these boxes. I'm gonna play over here on the
Swinging
left.
left.
Yep. Horizon 100 on purple.
Careful,
He has a wingman.
Right, I bet.
He has a fucking wingman. I'm backing up.
Okay, again.
Cracked 100 perp.
These cells.
Two there. Buckle that maybe.
Yeah, we have to walk up though.
160,
I'm down to
160.
do it though.
I'm walked up on the right.
Where are they?
Over here.
And so the big thing that this team kind of makes a mistake of, once you're sitting in that tiny circle and you have the other entire part of the teams around you, like, we have 3 people here. If they're sitting in the middle of the circle, it's going to be a problem for them. They have to either run up to the zip lines and jump over that, or they got to go back where they came from. So the whole thing is, because we held the space well and we're forcing them, if they want to push in, into a bad position and holding the area well, that is going to allow us to just easily kill them.
In the back. They're like in the middle room.
They missed their buckle.
On you.
All right. Swinging you. 100 on bang.
Horizon dead.
100 on bang. Behind you. Cracked.
I'm smoking you
Push that
left,
guy.
smoking
Push
you
that
left.
guy.
Catalyst
On the wall, on
25.
the wall. Both on the wall, both on the wall.
On me.
Oh my god. Backing up.
Got it.
Nice. Swinging this guy. Aping the f out of him.
Crack him. Oh my
Nice,
god.
nice.
Dude.
If Aiden isn't here at the door, he doesn't put spikes, he doesn't do any of that, right? What's going to end up happening here is this team's just going to walk in for free, right? If we're not holding anything here, they get to walk in for free, and they're going to try to take space in order to fight us as best as they can. If we deny them that space, then that basically is going to allow us the ability to easily kill them, make sure they're not a threat, and basically secure our rotation. It's one of the most boring jobs, but it is one of the most important jobs, is anchoring. So Aiden did a really good job here in this particular example. So moving on, we're talking about play styles, right? Meta, all that stuff. So edge play style, just defining it out, getting the whole aspect of it out there. This is pure edge I'm talking about here, okay? Pure edge. Zero controller, okay? You don't have anybody on your team that's going to be able to scan a console. No Watsons, no Ramparts, no Catalyst, none of that, okay? You're basically just playing for totally just on the end of kills, okay? So you're prowling the edge, you're basically going to look for kills, in isolated 3v3s and third parties, and you're going to gain entry into the zone that way. Essentially, a good playstyle example of that would be like LG. They just craft, come out with red armor, right? Prowl on the edge of the zone. There's a fight breaking out. They'll look to third party it. If they, end up, let's say, running up to a choke or running up to an area of a POI, and a team happens to be there doing something, or happens to be there in general, if they recognize that it's an isolated fight or a fight that they can clean up quickly, then they'll go ahead and they'll attack that. Now, edge playstyle as well, you still can gatekeep, which with an edge playstyle. That's sort of what we call soft edge, right? Where, let's say, for example, even though you don't have, console, you recognize a zone and you recognize there's a choke, or there's a couple of buildings, or there's a mountain or something. And you recognize if teams are going to have to go that way, right? Regardless, because the zone's going to be big. You're going to recognize if a team has to go away a certain way or not. And you can basically look to gatekeep and look to see when that team rotates in, then use all your abilities, use all your things to basically just take that fight as an ISO fight, hopefully, or a third party if it's to your advantage. Whole goal of edge, clearing your backside. You want to take control of like 1/4 of the zone. If you imagine the zone, just a circle. We're just cutting the circle like a pizza. Okay, we're cutting in half, cut it in another half. And we got basically the little 4 triangles. We want to control one of those triangles. We want to control one of those little parts of the circle, the fourth of the circle. We want to get as many kills as possible because we don't have zone knowledge. We don't know exactly what that's going to look like. And all we need to do is play edge, right? This is very kill oriented. So I'm going to give you an example, sort of just looking here at us in particular and how we decided to play edge on a particular game. I have basically a map. This map is provided by Apex Legends Status. And essentially is a map that's called the detailed game statistics. And it basically looks at every single team, how they rotated, where they went, how they did it, so on and so forth. So in this example here, you'll see we have no console. Okay, we are playing Horizon Bloodhound Bangalore. And that's out of choice because we want to play that because we want to get some form of kills. So I'll kind of go through this a little bit on the faster motion. I did speed it up for us a bit, so it should be okay. But nonetheless, zone pops over here. We're going to be towards this side. We don't really know what zone looks like, when it pops. We don't have essentially a clue at all. When we have an idea of it, we see kind of all the teams that are here. We recognize, okay, well, the zone's probably there if there's that many teams here. And so we're going to sit on the edge of this zone, and we're going to have a few things to worry about. We have to worry about any teams coming from the north, coming from Fisher side. We're going to have to worry about teams basically coming from, the right side of zone where landslide is, right? And we're going to have to worry about anything sort of on the south, if that is potentially an issue. Because we could get attacked from one side and then attacked from another too. That essentially can happen. Just depends on where you position. We picked a really good position here, which is essentially just sitting on top of a really large rock on this side of zone. So we can see everything, gatekeep any type of team from kind of going in here. So you could say this is a good example of like soft edge. Okay, zone closes some more. Continuing to keep our rock control. We understand NRG is here at this trailer. We understand that DarkZero is inside of this choke. Sure, we don't maybe know exactly who the team is at the time, but that doesn't really matter. We're just paying attention to the fundamental fact. We have to hold this rock against these teams, make sure we're not getting grief, so on, so on. Ring closes out. Teams are starting to either scramble to get in the zone or they're already there. It's got to be kind of one of the two in this scenario. NRG is still playing their small town. We recognize that. Zone's going to end up closing a little bit further for sure. So what we're going to do off of that information is we're going to make sure that we clear everything on this side. And that's what we do. So we don't necessarily have to kill anybody here on this side because they back away. We're holding a really good position, a really good rock here, where if anybody wants to walk up over here, they got to walk out in the open. We're hard to shoot because we're on high ground on a rock using head glitches. So we're fine. So we go ahead, we walk into zone based upon all of that. And then we're able to basically look at who's in front of us, what teams we're going to have to wipe. And in that scenario, what ends up happening is we end up going for the side of zone where we're controlling the entire back still. And we're going to end up just wiping everything here. We control all the way back here. Every team is being forced away. We have our zone control, making sure that we're killing everybody, taking care of business, if you will. And in this zone, we basically end up just killing everybody and winning the game. So as you can see there, soft edge. Played the rock, came in, looked at all the teams, killed as many as we needed to. It was not really an issue for us. But could we have sat in the choke if we had known the zone? Sure, right? But that's not our objective. We don't have console. We don't have that information. We have an idea, but that's about it. Can handle the oxygen? Yeah, no, I could say that too. So zone play style and defining that, okay? My team doesn't necessarily play zone, but I have examples of teams that do and how they do it. So the big thing is you need at least one controller legend, okay? You need a legend that's going to have console. Because how are you going to play zone if you don't know how to read the ring, right? If you don't know where second ring is, how can you really get deeper into the ring and play the zone, right? So kind of a no-brainer. Fast rotate. You know, these types of players want to get to the zone as quickly as possible. They don't care if they walk out with 4 cells, an alternator, and a 30-30 repeater. They want the zone. They don't care. That's kind of what their whole thing is. It's all about this placement, right? Gatekeep. You can still gatekeep from zone 100% because at the end of the day, the zone's going to end up closing. You're going to end up on edge at some point as a zone, team, unless you just guessed perfectly or had the most perfect place to be because of how the map was structured at the time, the geometry of where the ring is and so on. But nonetheless, teams coming down hills, you're sitting on a building. Teams running through the street, you're sitting in a building, At the end of the day, anybody who wants to cross your area and wants to become a problem, you could gatekeep them from that. You could probably get a pick, get a kill as well when they're rotating through. So you can gatekeep from zone 100%. Staying alive is the biggest part for this team, though, no matter what. And sometimes they can't even get kill potential or gatekeep because they just don't have anything. They don't have any loot. So keeping the space that they acquired, you want to keep your free real estate. And you don't want to necessarily get attacked. You don't want to get easily knocked. Because if you die in that building or you get pushed and punished for being in that building or bullied, right, then you just end up in a situation where you have no kills and you were sitting in a building trying to play for placement. So this entire playstyle is really based upon griefing things, with the gatekeeping and just like, 33 repeaters, scouts, charge rifles, that whole deal. People kind of come in. But then also you're kind of just playing in the building to play for the placement. You're in zone. That's kind of your prerogative. With zone teams, there's going to be issues sometimes where you can go to zone really early in a type of lobby. And what ends up happening because you're so early, people think that they could take your spot. So they try to fight you. And then everything gets third partied and everybody dies. Sure, that's probably happened to somebody in this chat. So yeah, zone play style. Sort of just giving a good example here. We're going to look at Pulverex. So Pulverex is an APAC team, and they basically come with the idea of we play zone. A lot of APAC teams in South and in North, they like to play zone. They're kind of, it's funny because they're like the mechanical warlords. I don't know how, but just APAC players are just mechanical warlords in MK. But they sometimes, some of them lack game sense, some of them lack understanding comp. But point is, this team, Pulverex, one of the better teams, I would say, from APAC that understands how to play zone very well. They have everything, okay? So we have a Rampart. That's our controller. We're going to know where the zone is, how it's going to pop off, the whole deal. Then we have Crypto. What's really interesting about those two is if you kind of get it, you got both beacons. So even if like you have a zone that's like further across the map, you scan, a recon beacon and you see something's free. It's like free real estate. Evac right into it, balloon right into it, go right into it because it's free. You have the information. But if you needed to play on edge, you needed to get a clear rotate, whatever that might look like, that recon is helping so much. So the combination of the two, very, very strong. Loba, just there for the loot, right? If you are in a POI that just doesn't have anything, or you have to rotate really fast, then you're not going to have some. So at the end of the day, Loba kind of makes up for that. She's going to pop that ultimate. People are going to continue to come in the zone, continue to die, so on and so forth. Free loot. Unlimited ammo. Get some nades for endgame. Ultimate accelerants, perhaps. It's good. So let's look at what Pulverex does here. I think it's very simplistic in terms of what they do. They're pretty close to the zone. They prioritize it very well. But even the team that ends up, pretty much having a console and this is their zone in their own POI, they don't win this. So we got Start a Fight here, Fnatic here, Blackhand, FC Destroy. And we're looking at Pulverex right here, right? They're sitting in the back, hanging out, okay? Start a Fight, sitting on top of the tower, Fnatic all the way in the back. But if you know zones really well here, and we'll kind of go over a bit of that, but the whole idea is that this ring is going to end on that backside. If you're smart enough, it ends back there, okay? And the whole thing with Pulverex in this situation is they understand that. And they just quickly go from their little POI here over tree and yonder right over to that building. And they sit in it, basically for that entire game. And as the ring starts to kind of close, you'll start to see things kind of just unfold. Got TSM here, Ascend there, Fnatic still in the back. We got Northception on the opposite side. Ring starts to close. Many teams start to die on the edge. We're just hanging out. Pulverex does not have to do anything here. Zone closes again. They have the best spot for it because they can just come out anytime that they want. Sen has to go over here. Pulverex gets to come out really late. And a fight ensues. And it's over. Pulverex basically wins that game. Just by understanding zone, going there quickly, having all the tools. They never really had any loot issues. They had like gold, purple, sitting in a building, doing nothing, right? And they got like picks and they were able to like shoot stuff through the window and all that jazz. But you know, it's not anything crazy. So our last play style, known as hybrid play style. This is the meta right now. Okay, if you're not playing hybrid, you're kind of throwing. I'm not gonna lie to you. Okay, and I got the numbers. I'll show you why. But hybrid, it's just the definition of the two, right? We at least have one controller because we need to be able to see kind of what the zone looks like and being able to use potential defensive abilities to lock down our zone area that we're securing. We can fast or slow rotate. Remember what I talk about, like soft edge, right? Or you could do, pure edge off of it too if you wanted to. But being able to understand that you could rotate fast or rotate slow depending upon the zone, you have options. You want to fight on the edge, you have the character set to do it. You want to fight, in the zone, or you want to chill out in the zone, you do that too. You got the characters for it. So gatekeeping, right? You can still do that entirely because you can still make all the plays as we talked about earlier. Flexibility, the whole adaptability piece, you could go for kills or placement. The biggest thing about a battle royale is that a lot of things are going to happen. Some things, if not a lot, are out of your control, okay? What you want is options. The better you give yourself options on a rotate with abilities, with certain weapons, being, in a situation against certain teams, the more you read those things and you understand where you're a disadvantage and where you're at an advantage, and then you read between the lines, that's how we do well here. But a hybrid comp allows for everything. It allows for you to get kills and it allows for you to play zone, which you can effectively do with that. So instead of a video here, I just wanted to go ahead and just give two kind of examples. And I'm going to just kind of use our team for this. So we're playing, in some of these games, we're playing sort of an edge composition, and some of them we're playing more of a zone composition here. So when we decide, zone is close, for example, and we get beacon, we go ahead and we're just going to sit next to the zone. And then sometimes we're really far. And again, we're landing Fisher in this particular instance where it's World's Edge. Really far, we're going to have to play soft edge. So we have console in both of these scenarios. I'm sorry, this is just not accurate on the right side, but we have console in both these scenarios. That's why we are exactly where we are in those particular areas. But we're reading between the lines. In some situations, we get to play zone. In some situations, we got to play soft edge or play edge as it is. Fun activity for you guys. Can you make a composition and define its play style? So I want you guys to put in the chat. I want you to tell me what the play style is. So say like hybrid, give the 3 characters, zone, give the 3 characters, so on, so on. I'm going to give you a visual aid here. Here's all the characters. I'm going to give you guys a few minutes with that. And I'm going to go ahead and read these out. And I'm going to basically tell you whether or not, something's good, something's bad, and really making sure you understand the differences here. Got Wraith, Gibby, Watson. Okay, you call that zone. We got Gibby, Revenant, Conduit, Hard Edge, Seer, Conduit, Horizon. Ballistic, Blood Bang equals Edge, Hybrid, Cat Bang, anyone. Okay, so look. So Wraith, Gibby, Watson. So that's not zone, and I'll tell you why. Gibby is basically like a support character at this point. He's made to create a buffer between, the enemy and the friendlies, but in an outside area. His entire kit is a defensive bombardment, which is going to be, missiles that come right down and clear areas by giving that area, those missiles, denying that team that or damaging them in the process. He also has the bubble, so you can res in the bubble safely. You can go ahead and like pop the bubble down to get in sort of a shotgun fight, kind of place that at the advantage. But Gibby is an edge legend. And if you remember the meta way back, it used to be like Wraith, Gibby, Bloodhound type deal, Octane, Gibby, Bloodhound. That's all edge because Gibby is made to fight outside with a bubble, with a defensive bombardment. So that's not necessarily a zone composition because Gibby's involved. Now, because you have Watson, you have the defensive abilities. So technically, what you have with Wraith, Gibby, Watson is a hybrid composition because you can fight on edge and you can also bunker down with Watson. Gibby, Revenant, Conduit, as you said, hard edge, absolutely perfect, correct. Hard edge here, we got Seer, Conduit, Horizon, perfect. Ballistic, Bang, Blood, let's see here. Yeah, that's absolutely edge. Hybrid, Cat, Bang, anyone. Pretty much true. Cat just makes it pretty much hybrid when you have Bang, right? Gibby, Caustic, Newcastle, hard zone. So Gibby, Caustic, Newcastle. There used to be a meta back in the day used to be Valkyrie, Gibby Caustic. And that was basically hybrid because Gibby Edge, Caustic Zone, Valkyrie, somewhere in between, right? But basically with Gibby, Caustic, Newcastle, I wouldn't necessarily define it as hard zone because Newcastle can fight on the open. You could plop that shield anywhere, take you out of the fight, you know, with the knockdown shield res, right? On top of that, you have Caustic too. So if you want to lock something down, you can. So in an ideal scenario, Gibby, Caustic, Newcastle is technically hybrid because of the edge fighting ability plus the zone ability. Conduit Horizon Bang is edge. Absolutely. Edge with Conduit Horizon and Bang. Yep. Scroll down here a bit. See Bang, Caustic, and Horizon for flex. Bang, Cat, Crypto for flex. This is good stuff. So we're using the word flex for hybrid. That's cool. I like that. Watson Bang, Blood, Edge. Watson Bang, Blood is not edge. The reason why is because Watson's a defensive legend, right? So if we go back, right, a bit here, in terms of the whole play style with that, Watson, Bang, Blood. So Watson, it has that one controller, right? Bang is going to be the aggressor and Blood's going to be the aggressor. So you're technically talking about a hybrid comp in that situation because you have at least one controller. You can choose to fast rotate or not, and you're flexible to either side of it. Yeah, with no controllers, like with no controller legend, you really can't play zone well because zone can pretty much just end up anywhere. Second zone, getting beacon and looking at second zone, you can infer a lot more information. Very good, guys. You know, obviously there's some, there's some understanding of it. And then there's also, some people that are kind of just getting the hang of it, but that's why we're here, right? So I'm here to answer all those questions and, kind of give you guys these prompts. I want you guys to not just sit here and listen to me. I want you to interact too, right? So I figured I'd give you that kind of fun activity and show you kind of the legends and what can be done there and what those might look like. Okay, we're going to move on here a bit. This right here, all this data that I'm providing you with, this right here is what was played in the ALGS Year 3 Championship. 41% of teams played this hybrid composition right here, Bang, Catalyst, and Horizon. 9% played Hard Edge with Bloodhound instead of Catalyst. And then we had the complete zone teams, the Apex, the Mia J. Lings type deal. I guess you could say Sentinels. These guys are going to play these zone compositions where it's like Crypto, Watson, and Valkyrie. They're hoping to get in the zone, hoping to get the free real estate and hang out. But that is the least played. And it's the least played because it has no flexibility. And Edge is the same way because you can't get zone information and you could probably use those spots to your advantage. You're basically losing out. Really interesting, right, guys? Be interesting to see kind of what's used at that level and what people are actually into, right? Kind of Bang, Horizon, Edge. Yep, that would be Edge. No console character. It all boils down to console character, guys. That's like the biggest thing. Like if you basically like think about it this way, if you have a console character, you can play zone, right? Always, every time. Can't play Edge. Can't play what do you call it? If you're trying to play zone and you don't have a console character, it's not going to work, right? It's kind of the idea. Flexibility never hurts. Gives you the best options. So moving on here, macro. I love this stuff. Macro is like the funnest thing ever. Okay, I sat like before I came to hang out with you guys, right, and do this awesome thing. I was sitting with the lads, sitting with the OXG boys. We were sitting there plotting things on map, talking about it, like literally planning in advance what teams were gonna end up fighting for it. The whole deal. Very important. Okay. POI choice. This is a big one. And guys, listen. This is going to sound crazy, but you just got to listen. Back when I met the current Oxygen team, again, they were known as the BR Demons. And if you look, you could do this research, okay? You could look. Pro League Split 1 did not make LAN, okay? Very aggressive, very edge play style. Did not really go to play zone. Leadership structure was different. Vayne wasn't the IGL at the time. Reeds was, right? But Vayne has good macro and he understands certain things, so he got placed into that role, and I obviously encouraged it. But the whole thing is, there are teams out there that don't even know why they pick up POI. There are teams out there that don't even understand how they can actually leverage their POI in a rotate. They don't understand how to even loot their POI the correct way sometimes, okay? And this is in Pro League. This is in Pro League. This is at the higher level of things where people just don't know why they're doing what they're doing. And that's why coaches are good and important. We understand these things and we're thinking about it on a different level. But this is something that I promise you, plenty of pro league players, even mid-tier pro league players don't even know what they're doing with some of this stuff. So loot density, okay? Concentration of loot in the area that you're in. Rotational tools is something you want to think about with a POI choice. You're thinking, do you have cannons? Do you have balloons? Do you have tridents? What's going to make it so you're going to rotate either fast or slow? What tools do you have or not have? Okay. How much loot do you need to loot? That whole deal. Nearby POIs. So depending upon the POI, the terrain, right? It may make it hard. There's some POIs that if you rotate a certain way, you're going to get in a congested fight every single time, or it's generally hard for you to get to zone because your POI is so out of the way. And then you have, just the whole idea of if it's all the way across, it's a zone location issue. Path of the rotations, as well. As I said, you can get into that sort of congestion type of situation. Examples. This right here is Climatizer, okay? In World's Edge. Climatizer is like on its own island. It's on Castaway, okay? It's Tom Hanks talking to Wilson, all right? It's out of there. It's gone, okay? So when you want to go, let's say, from Climatizer to like what is Dome or, Lava City, or let's say you even want to get to like Lava Siphon, right? This is an entire hill up here. You could try to take the balloon, but you're only going to get so far, basically into frag. You're still going to be slow on that. If you want to go over here to the left and you want to get to Skyhook, you're going to have to go through an entire tunnel to get there too, and hope that a spot isn't taken. Maybe there's like, diner ending, something like that, like all the way on that side where Trials is. Trials ending. You go all the way over there, right? So it's an edge POI because look at it. We have large loot density, lots of loot. You want to get juiced, you want to get the red armors crafted, you want to get the good guns, you want to get the bats, you want to get all that stuff. This is a POI to do it because you're going to end up playing on the edge no matter what, and you're always going to have an abundance of resources for it, okay? It has little to no rotational tools, which also, as we're saying here, kind of makes it edge pretty much. This balloon could get you to that balloon, and that's it. So it's hard to navigate around too, because let's say you want to go on the overlook side or you want to go through fragment. There could be teams in those situations too. You're very unlikely to just get to the zone, and it just requires full edge play. So that's a good example of an edge POI. There's different types of POIs. There's hybrid POIs, there's edge POIs, and there's zone ones, okay? Just like we talked about in the playstyle. So if you understand what comp you're playing, it can also give you an idea of what POIs might be good for you. Zone, overlook. Sentinels has gone here. Moist back in the day has gone here, right? Jay Lings. All those teams are fast rotate teams, okay? They understand that this POI basically has nothing because it does. It just has a very small loot density. You have basically this scaffolding, this dome, like 2 trucks, a building, another building, a building, and a couple of bins. That's it. That's why people usually take both of these, right? They usually take no name and that, right? But they have smaller loot density. They don't have to loot as much. They can go very fast. Great tools to rotate. This balloon right here is insane, okay? You could take this balloon into an evac and get to the other side of the map, right? Like that. So it has already built in this fantastic balloon and gets you basically anywhere you want to go in combination with things or just simply because it can. Fragment zone, you're in, right? Very simple. It's easy to navigate through any POIs. You're not going to have an issue here, okay? If you need to rotate, it's not like you're going to run into a team every single time, right? It's not like you have to worry about if you rotate left or you rotate right that you're going to run into something necessarily right away. You're not going to have to worry about that. You're likely to get a zone because of the speed, and it's just, as I said, not as congested. Now, hybrid POI, okay? You guys love TSM, I'm sure, okay? Sure you love Imperial Mauled. So Lava Siphon is really good because if you really notice TSM, right, and what they do, they have a very hybrid playstyle. Lightning Rod, very hybrid kind of POI. You kind of almost call it its own POI, honestly, Lightning Rod in its own way, but it has a lot of loot, so you can kind of define it either way. But the point is, Lava Siphon, you have balloons on both sides, okay? You have a bunch of loot. You don't have console here? Loot up. You got juice. It's like Climatizer, okay? If you need to be quick about it, you get everything scanned, grab whatever you can, you take the balloon. If you need to take that into another evac or whatever, you can do that.
TSM can get, basically almost anywhere very quickly, with the exception of Skyhook. But even then, Skyhook's fine for them because Skyhook is going to be congested. When a POI is congested and it's large, right? You can kind of find little obscure spots. You can find, places to be. Go bottom middle tower, middle of middle tower, top of middle tower, right? Go to diner, go to another building. It's so many options. All they do is if they want to get into Skyhook, they would go up the harvester choke. And like over here, they go up this harvester choke over here. They would go up, and there's a house that is right next to Skyhook, next to a needle, next to the tunnel that is where survey is. That house, that tiny house, they pop an evac on top of that house, go up, boom, and Skyhook. Don't even have to go through the chokes. Free. It's crazy. So now that pretty much defines those in terms of POIs. We talked about edge playstyle, zone playstyle. We talked about, hybrid playstyle. We talked about POIs and examples and definitions of how you could actually look at a POI. If you use those notes, if you use what I just told you, and you look at all the POIs, you can easily determine what type of POI it is, which can help you if you're choosing legends that are going to support your playstyle. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is basically the meta in terms of playstyles. That's how some of the macro basics of it work. And then obviously we talked about how different roles are dynamic from each other, what each of them does, showing examples of those as well. For what is got to be my favorite thing to talk about, lobby scaling. So somebody in here, forget in the chat, somebody in here, that you guys can tell me, you said something along the lines of adapting to a lobby, or like getting more kills in a lobby, or if you're having issues in the lobby, right? How to play in poor quality lobbies versus higher tier lobby. Perfect. That's one way to look at it, to a degree. Kind of get into that, but adapting to a lobby based upon the skill set in the lobbies is kind of the idea of lobby scaling. So, lobby scaling, adjustment to difficulty of the challenge, skill level or composition of players in a particular lobby. You're adjusting. How do you do it? So the first thing I would say, look at the first 2 games you play. If you're playing hybrid, zone, edge, whatever, okay? Look at the first 2 games that you played. How did they go? What exactly happened in those games? Was it bad? Was it good? Based upon that, you can infer how the lobby's kind of going to play out because you're doing well in a certain way. So a good set of indications, okay, that you may need to adapt to a lobby. The amount of teams alive at the start and the end of the game. See it many times in pro scrims, okay? It's like zone 1, 15 teams alive. Like, what happened, right? Like, that's kind of the idea. There are plenty of lobbies where there's just not a lot of teams that end up being alive towards the start or the end of the game. And that is an indication to you. So many people are dying off because people are playing potentially in more of an edge play style, or people just aren't getting into zone. And it's like crazy zones that if you're not in, you're just going to die. So reading the amount of teams that are alive, right? And looking at that on the board as you go. Compositions being played in the lobby. When you go into a lobby, okay, and you look at the score, you click on the other thing, you look at the score, right? You're gonna see what people are playing. You can get an idea. What's this lobby gonna look like? Is this gonna be hybrid lobby, zone lobby, edge lobby? And I would do that on a LAN stage. I would think about the group that we're gonna be in, look at every single composition that they were gonna play us, and say, hey guys, on paper, you should be prepared for an edge lobby. On paper, you should be prepared for a hybrid lobby. So we're already ahead of the game, on paper, at least. Then you have basically what the teams within the game and their playstyle are doing. So yeah, that's more of a qualitative data thing, right? You looking at the game with your eyes, what do you think's happening? So it's either like a statistic, like a number or something like that, like a leaderboard, or the team's live, and then there's the qualitative data, which is like more looking at what's being played and how people are actually playing in the lobby from your own perspective and your own eyes. So ways to adapt. When you want to adapt, you could change the composition or roles on your team. Maybe you swap IGLs. Maybe you swap legends. It's all up to how the lobby is going and what the challenges are. You could switch your playstyle off of that. And why I say that on top of changing compositions, it's because you could play hybrid, right? So let's say you have Catalyst on your team. You can decide, okay, this lobby is chalked for zone. I don't want to play zone with Catalyst anymore, but I still want to play Catalyst. Well, okay, now you play edge with Catalyst. So you could switch your playstyle as a hybrid team too, instead of like changing the composition necessarily. Limit testing. So look, guys, I was writing a section. I basically co-authored some of the Imperial Hell Bootcamp, okay? and I wrote a section that didn't get included, but it was so important. And it's something that so many teams at the highest level just don't do. Limit testing. It's when you're proactively just pushing the boundaries of what characters your team can and cannot play and how they can do it. And what you want to be able to do is create that flexibility. I'm giving you kind of an example of where that hurt us and where it kind of helped us. Okay. In the championship, we placed 16th, something like that, in the finals. Okay. Versus our playoff, which was a couple of months before, if not a month before, we placed third. The biggest thing is EA and Respawn decided to change certain things in the game that would make certain legends, aka Seer, just not as useful anymore. Okay. And what I instructed the team to do is I instructed them to change to Bloodhound for a little bit, about a week into our practice, because we're going to have a little bit more time than that, probably about 4 weeks worth of practice. I basically said, let's try this out. So that way, when we do it, we can see if it works. In the back of my head, I'm like, okay, if this works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But at least we've tried it now and we understand how it could work, and we could change to something else and test that too. So the more that you test different things that you could play, the better off and flexibility you have. Okay. And the whole thing with limit testing as well, it doesn't necessarily have to mean you change the whole composition either. It also means that if you have characters on your team, Conduit, Bangalore, Horizon, right? Swap your Horizon with your Catalyst. Swap your Bangalore with your Horizon, right? Put a different person on that legend. You can decide to switch up their role too, like in-game leader or anchor or not. You could decide that, but you don't really necessarily need to all the time. I would obviously say pick roles and legends that complement each other. But even then, regardless, if you're playing each other's legends, not only are you getting an understanding for yourself individually how that legend works, but you're also getting a perspective of what your teammates have to go through and what your teammates' tools are when they come back, how they can be used. And you might even find, you'd be surprised, you might even find that the structure that you had before is worse than the structure that you ended up getting when you limit tested. Not many teams do that. They just say, this is what's being played right now. We'll play the meta. We'll go for it. That's it. They don't do anything else. They just play in accordance to what's being played. It's not going to help them. Something happens to one of the characters, something happens with their POI and not having certain things. It's shocked. Come prepared or go home. DGS is a detailed game statistics. It is a resource that is available on apexstatus.com, and it basically can give you an ALGS portal and a few other things that can tell you how certain games are going and what things in the past have looked like. It's a very good detail-oriented system. It's sort of what you looked at earlier when we were looking at the maps and seeing how teams moved around and stuff like that. That's from the DGS. My favorite story to tell. So if we look on the right here, you'll see we have Oxygen Esports. Top, number 1, okay? But look at the first 2 games. We got 16th in one, 17th in the other, okay? That's the first 2 games. Remember what I told you guys? Look at the first 2 games. See how your lobby's doing, right? And adjust off that. So for the first 2 games, we're essentially playing zone.
I mean, we need to keep an eye on command.
Yeah,
Don't play too many meds.
And while playing sort of on this zone style, we get pushed by a lot of teams consistently, right? And we thought the zone would end a little different here, more or less. So that's why we're kind of sitting here a certain way. But more or less, off the info that we had, we're going to end up having difficulties because we just get pushed by teams, because teams just don't care in this lobby for whatever reason that might be.
Another team on roof here.
Mind you, we're probably maybe in the way they rotate, which probably would also impact it as well. But if we just can't hold things well in general, then that means that we're probably playing a building wrong.
Come here. Hey, behind me on the window. Push it. Yeah, you have to. Go together.
One on one down here. There's 2. Nice. Another bang.
We're in our building with defensive legends, right? And we thought the zone kind of would be a little bit more here towards us, towards our side. The whole point is we sit there, we aren't defending our stuff well. Getting pushed, killed. It's bad, okay? Give another go. Maybe it's just a mistake. Maybe it's an issue with how we're doing things. Maybe we picked the wrong spot. Just have a little ability to give doubt out, you know? So, second game here. We're sitting on top of Barometer Tower, which is, again, we basically land Barometer at that particular time. And what we have to end up doing is rotating. And when we rotate through, because we're inaccurate about our zone play at that time, we essentially had to end up fighting.
You can
Again.
find that. You
He's
can find
cracked,
that.
he's cracked. I'm batting, I'm batting.
Killed her. Ryzen's
Nice,
doing
nice,
up on the
nice.
front.
Okay.
Blocking this nade. I can't.
I'm here, Aiden, I'm here.
40.
Flex together. Careful,
Reloading.
careful from tower. You might get third party instantly.
You get
Yeah,
the third?
they're top tower now. The team top
I
tower.
died, I died. He res, he res.
They res too. They just res in low ground. You can grab the armor in the box. It's like 50. It has 50 on it.
Probably might get.
Pretty good.
Is there Moby?
No.
It's on the drop there.
Yeah. Is this it? We should just go here.
Okay, I'm switching guns.
Watch your height. Care of height.
Yeah.
You need to look height for him.
This team's queuing up. Look at this.
I'm looking, I'm looking.
100.
I killed him.
Side switch, maybe wrap down low.
And so now, we can look at this in a couple ways. We could say the lobby's aggressive. We could say we're playing bad spots and not playing zone the best way. However you want to look at it, we need to adapt. We need to do something different, okay? At this point, we need to qual in the winner's bracket. We need to get there. We don't have time to play around. We don't want to be in loser's bracket and playing back-to-back days, back-to-back situation. We don't want that, okay? We want to get a nice rest for the finals. So what I call for, I say, hey, look, guys, we need to change up what we're doing here. And I would suggest we do the comfort pick that we have, because we came into this LAN, I came into this LAN knowing that we might have issues. I came up with an edge composition that would use as a backup, go for kills when we needed it, and then we had a hybrid one that would help us play zone. So I said, guys, this is the time right now. We're 2 games in. We are not doing well. Let's go with the kill route. Let's literally unleash the BR demons, okay? Play some edge. Let's go, okay?
I need to kill the
So,
low.
I think they're close.
Yeah,
They're
taking
playing
her.
like the backside.
They might be up on this.
They popped dog as well.
Yeah,
Yeah, they
nice,
are,
good.
they are. One's up there. No, I don't. On
Two
my
left.
far right, I'm batting.
Bang on thing. One's far left.
Guys,
there.
take left side with other belly, please.
Yeah. Nothing.
Might swing you, Reeds.
One's on roof.
Left side of the...
Can we just get in?
One's
Inside,
far side on
inside.
roof. One's far side on roof. You're gonna
On the left.
One more.
go together. Go together.
I'm swinging. It's above. Careful, careful.
Okay, back up
I'm
to me.
batting.
Hit it back.
Can we go roof? Can we go roof?
Yeah, yeah. I'm with you.
I have a
Can
scan.
you scan me? Good scan.
Bulk, 60 blue on me.
Down on the roof.
I'm walking up there. I'm walking up
I
there.
tracked one.
Okay, cancel,
I
play
cracked one
slow.
too.
I need a bat.
Big
Two
shot,
arcs
big
on it.
shot.
I killed him. 5. On me.
Inside.
Try not to die.
I'm coming.
110.
24 flush.
I'm batting.
24 flush.
Kill him. 110
He's just
off.
on the door.
I'm watching
Swap
your
it.
fucking...
Watch her
Watch
back,
command,
watch
watch
her
command.
back.
Yeah, I'm watching it.
So, getting aggressive, playing it out, still trying to make sure we live, right? And in that regard, should I be on Bangalore's IGL? It's never the worst idea because you can scout ahead and look for information. So that's helpful.
Shoot pop dog right now.
Okay,
Pop dog,
I'm
nades on it.
stuck. I can't move.
40 on one.
I'm popping dog.
22.
So now we're going to have to end up fighting more. Zone's all the way over here, guys, right? We're going to have to do something crazy. We're going to have to literally like fight the entire Army National Guard. And this is how we do it.
Picking me on the left.
42 on her. Broken.
I'm popping cells. Play self.
Just keep pressuring them.
I know. I'm gonna nade
I think
it.
smoke's go away. I don't have DG.
This guy don't.
On that.
Stay alive, Vayne. Yep. Can't see the smoke. Wait, I see them.
And so Edge isn't dumb, right? You're not running into things that are just going to get you immediately killed. You're still playing to live. You're still playing for the kill. You're just being aggressive with all the tools that you have.
51.
Big damage.
Yeah, sliding down.
He's scanning for you, Vayne. Play slow. Don't die.
I'm just swing it. In and off. Last guy aping in the zone.
Careful,
He's gone.
Take a zone rep.
Listen, we have to fucking walk up on that side, or maybe evac. I think we look for
Definitely
evac. Yeah.
Right here. Yes. Come right side.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Land in this corner. I'm gonna smoke.
And so some perfect IGLing here, pretty much what we call the obscure spot principle, trying to find a really weird spot, little crevices, little places where you can survive black LOSs from teams and stuff like that. And that had to do with us coming from edge, right? We need to get in the zone somehow. And when you're playing Edge and you try to, evac into places, you want to look for these little weird spots, these little crevices, little places you can just survive. Let the game unfold around you, like I said kind of earlier.
Focus on that. Focus on that. We're chilling. I'm buying the side. We can look around. I'm smoking our back. You can come over to me a little bit.
Play on vein, play on vein. It's perfect. Might be on the third party building too.
We're gonna look at third party nut, okay?
I can cue this, I can cue this.
Okay. Good.
Go back.
Yep, going back.
I got you.
I think we have to walk up on that now.
I'm going back to this corner.
Play my spot. Play on me. Play on me.
Okay, yep, it's perfect.
Bang.
With urgency, play on me. IGLs have urgency. IGLs repeat things multiple times. If you want to get something across, it's kind of the way to go.
I have no cue for this. Safe on me.
Okay.
Point turn.
I think it's still 50 to 9.
We walk over here.
I want to somehow get here. Wait. Yes, we will.
And so what we understand here, we can't just walk into zone here. It's not going to work. There's teams here. There's going to be an issue with that. So obviously potentially some teams behind us and there's some teams here. If we kill the team over here, then we're technically by a rock. We're going to be able to isolate some things and try to make it an isolated fight and then walk in from there. That's pretty much the idea. We're clearing aside a zone, getting as many kills as possible. We're not going to go try to sit in the zone. It's not going to work.
Smoke our back though. You smoke up the nut.
I will.
And you guys, I see some of your questions too with regards to like stuff like obscure spots, stuff like that. When we get to the Q&A, which will come up really soon here, I'm going to answer like a bunch of your questions. I just want to kind of get through this first, okay?
Okay. Keep watching the team north. Climbing up. And behind us. I'm playing my life.
You can go outside the building, man, on the left side of the building. It's pretty good. A good sun and rain out there. Dude.
And so that's game 3 Storm Point. But if you notice thing here, 8 kills. 8 kills does a lot for us. You could sit in zone, right? And basically get like second place, which is like basically 9 points at the end of the day. You could do that. Or you could kill that many people on the edge of zone, right? And do it proficiently. So
battery 50%.
you have the options of how you want to do it. 8 kills, 5 placement. That's so good. That's fantastic, right? So you get 5th, you get 8 kills. It's good. You get a decent bit of points for that. 4 points on top of 8, basically, I think. So going into 4th game, we kind of troll a little bit there, so I kind of skipped that through. But then we get back-to-back wins. That's why it's called the story of the back-to-back wins.
Why the fuck did it kick me off, man?
Fight for this.
Yeah.
Come to me.
I'm dead.
So what's interesting about this clip that I'm showing you, the team right now is having some small issues with its communication in terms of fighting. I showed this clip as an example of how they go back and forth about certain things, and I'll kind of explain. I'm going to explain it to you how I explained it to them literally today. So
Might be swing this vein.
about what's good about it, what's bad.
I'm gonna look the resume.
Listen, we might be able to throw that side on the other side of your
Look
smoke,
left,
man.
Aiden. Look left, Aiden.
Yeah, I am.
Aiden, you look right, okay?
Yeah, I'm looking right.
Everyone died here. We have this space. We have this space.
And so talking about team fighting and like teamwork and stuff like that here, right? Confirmation calling is what we call this, okay? You look right. Yes. You should look this side. Yes. You need to heal. Yes, I'm going to do that. Hey, we should wipe that side. Yes, right? Going back and forth, adding to it, right? We can do that. We can do this. And then you basically are going off each other, right? The IGL makes the ultimate decision at the end of the day because that's their job. But basically going back and forth, really yelling things out there, getting the voices out.
I killed one right.
Making sure you acknowledge each other too. It's not just what you say. It's also what you agree upon or what you don't agree upon with your teammates. Because that lets them know if you're with them or not, on the same page or not.
You want to send that?
Yes.
Okay, I'll probably make
Should I
it.
black hole? Should I black
Probably
hole?
make it.
Should I black hole? I've got some damage on the right. We should push. Should we push? Yes.
Yep. Look at me,
I'm
boys.
black holing it.
I'm in a dangerous spot.
I'm nading it.
Okay, play slow now. I'm smoking right. Inside of right. Come up to the right.
Batting.
No cells at all. None. No cells at all. Okay.
Hold that swing. We can't let that team res.
They're on the.
Play on me. There's a bin here. Don't go too far.
We have
You
to kill
just
the
swing
team
their
behind
wall.
us though.
Swing their wall right now.
In.
I got exploded by themselves.
I got one left.
In the knock.
I'm playing
breaking
slow,
knock.
I'm playing slow, I'm healing.
Smoke it and then we get in there.
Careful, nade.
Get in there.
Okay.
100.
Get the kill.
Ring's closing right now, Reeds.
Yep. We can move slow.
And so what I explained to them, the biggest things that they did really well here, calling out their abilities. Should we use them? Yes. The confirmation calling back and forth. What teams to wipe, when to wipe them, what to look at. And it's all a combination of the IGL going back and forth with his teammates, right? Creating the priorities. But at the end of the day, everybody is on the same page. They are literally holding hands, fighting everything in front of them. And that's how it should be. Not saying like you should be literally on top of each other. You take different angles. You get the idea there. But they're literally with each other every step of the way. No issues whatsoever. They die, but at least they are together fighting hand in hand. And that is the only way you're going to live anyway.
Yeah, boys, play out as a duo.
I put an evac down.
Bro, bug me on the red.
Wait, I'm safe.
I killed one on the right, by the way. I killed one.
I'm on yourself.
I'm just waiting for these kills.
Yes,
Yeah.
we killed this team.
I'm throwing a vert nade.
You ready to peek, Aiden?
The team on the right.
Yeah.
Power of friendship type shit is definitely a way to describe it.
Behind them on the left. I need a gun though.
They're down low. Got 80.
I don't have a gun. Drop me the creeper.
I killed one. Kill this
He's
on me.
dead.
Come here.
I need the smokes. I need the smokes.
Come loot.
You're good,
got
you're
it.
good. We're safe.
Okay. Can I loot?
Come loot. On me.
It's co-igl coming out here, right? Like you can loot. Like it's good. I got you, right? Like kill this team. You can loot it now. Like don't worry about it, Vayne. Like I got you. Because at this point, like again, we don't have it, so you just spawn with the armor. You spawn with the gun, right? Like you're spawning with white. You're spawning with nothing. Vayne needs to loot. So his co-igl has all the things with him. Has all the things he needs. He's going to make sure that his IGL is taken care of, so that way he can take back the reins.
It's good.
Okay. Holy fuck, boys.
Drop
Good
your
shit.
feeders. Get close
Scraper,
range.
Vayne.
Yeah. Grab nades too.
Trade
Dude,
spots
are
with me,
you
Vayne. I
dropping
got this
scraper?
scraper.
Okay.
Aiden kind of anchoring here, right? Finding what's playable, finding kind of that spot, holding that position. Kind of in a way.
Furia win this game.
They might be fighting on each other. They
Yeah,
are.
I'm scanning.
Walk up roof.
We kill the guy on the right.
right.
You see the guy far right?
Yeah. I'm taking roof for this building, but I'm playing slow.
Yeah, take roof. Let's go on your right side, Reeds. Keep pitching
Okay.
right side, Reeds.
I'm gonna
Bro,
peek.
hard fighting.
Yep, flash.
I cracked one.
I'm peeking
Get
this.
that kill, get that kill. Get that kill.
Last team, last guy.
Last guy.
Get him, boys. Fuck yeah, that's it. Fucking dub.
Let's go.
Good.
So that's game number 5, right? You would think, like, coming from there, like that wall, kind of lucky, right? That wall that allows him to kill that team in the low ground, kind of lucky, right? But whole thing is, everything that's done, it's on edge, hand in hand, playing together, confirmation calling, making sure each other are acknowledged, no matter what the column is. Everybody doing the role, taking the reins when it's necessary, looking for positions that are playable, right? Talking about what team we need to kill versus what team we don't. Urgency of it. Everything is just played super well.
We know how to play the game now.
Let's
Man.
fucking go.
And so, calm right there. We know how to play the game now, right? Because he's looking back at me. He's like, we know how to play the game now. Because we have to play edge, right? That we had to adjust to the lobby because we suck at playing zone at this particular point, or circumstances don't allow for it as much. Play some edge.
There's nades there too.
I'm
I took no
trying to
backpack to
hold
hold.
green, but
Yeah, I'm gonna double hold with you.
I think there's somebody behind them. Maybe that's the rat.
And so,
You like
what do you guys notice here? Let me ask you a question. What do you notice about the squads left, and what do you notice about the zone number? What zone is closing? How many squads are left? What game is this? Perfect. Voice got it perfect. It's too few for round 3. It's an ape fest, okay? It's game 6. People got their backs to the wall, okay? They're trying to get into winner's bracket. It's going to be crazy. People are going to go for kills here, okay? So if we're going to do the same, we got to be very mindful of that, okay? But we also can leverage the fact that people are aping each other more and kind of secure certain third parties, secure certain spots, which leads us to why we're here over here. Third party to a few things we're chilling. And the whole thing is, that is the biggest point right there, as I said. I said everything to you that pretty much is going on here. Round 2 adjustment, right? Game 2 adjustment. amount of teams that are there, how your playstyle is working out for you in that moment, depending upon other factors of what's going on with other teams or what's going on with yours. Okay, adjustments. All this is here.
Drop down.
They killed him.
There's no one in this truck anymore. I don't know where they went.
Do you have a Peter vein?
By no name.
No, I don't. Flatline.
Listen, there's a bunch of extra cells and arcs. Like right here too.
Yeah, but we can't play that with them
Yeah,
there or anything.
This zone's closing. 7 teams left.
Coming across
On
here.
4.
Wait, so we can probably get
Play
closer
here,
left
play here.
move.
I don't have it. I smoked them.
Think of previous zone 4s, right? Let's like there's way less teams versus what it was.
That was kind of risky.
We're actually really cozy here.
Yeah.
Card's not really playable.
We have to
though.
stay here. We have to stay
We
here.
might be like 2 up and 3rd that too.
I don't know.
Could be safe for
me.
Yeah, walking at us, walking at us. We can do up and throw us.
I have no. I'm not.
I'm probably cell. Wait, 3rd this
We
maybe?
need to scan our back first. We need to scan our back first.
Kill these
I
guys.
already scanned it. I don't have it.
Stare north, stare north.
Yep.
Flying off the hill. Knock one.
Nice.
Full kill, everyone.
And so basically, like Reeds is calling, can we like kill that up there, right? And you see how Vayne, like I would like Vayne, of course, to like kind of confirm no, but at the same time, the chemistry is so strong that Reeds realizes he's not going to just go up there alone and do it by himself, or go up there and then yell at his team to come up there with him. He understands his role, which is suggest the situation, which is to look at it and try to give his IGL an idea. But he stays grounded. He stays there with his team. He knows that he needs to do it all together with them on the call at the IGL. And Vayne kind of in a way not saying anything here, and then Reed's understanding that and staying here. It's so small, but it happens so many times. I'm telling you, the teams that just don't do that, just go out of their way to do whatever, and they don't think about the consequences. They don't think about what their IGL's plan is or anything like that. So very good restraint here. Vayne understands. He already understands. Vayne already understands this team's gonna have to come down this hill, that they're gonna get shot. It's already in his head. He doesn't communicate it because he's already got the team in the spot. He's more focused on trying to get those kills. The team's in a perfect spot. They're safe. He doesn't got to worry about that. He just got to worry about getting these kills. And his teammates aren't going to leave him.
I have Q
I
now.
smoked her back.
Look out.
Wait, they're in on hill. I'm looking back. I'm looking south.
I think we have to kill his team now.
If they're here, we can
Yeah,
kill
yeah.
them, Vayne.
They're not. They wrap their edge. We can wrap.
Yeah, we can
We
hear
can
them.
hear.
I'm coming.
kill
I'm
these
gonna
as
be a
well.
bit split.
Fine.
He's a little bit split. He's calling that out, right? Very small detail, but very important. Now his teammates know.
Right in front. Flash one, knock one.
Nice.
Nice.
On the left.
I cracked one left. I cracked right under us, guys. I think.
I'm scanning.
So now they've went from this side of the zone, playing kind of an obscure spot, looking at the situation that's going on over here. They knew there was a team over here. That team decided to wrap this way. They wrap ahead. That means that we're the last team essentially on edge, playing edge perfectly here, right? Nothing on our backside. We own this zone. The zone is ours.
Walk forward on the right. On the right.
Damn,
On the right.
I'm on the right.
Batting.
I'm playing slow here.
One's going far right. I'm smoking far right. We should queue up.
And so this is us versus FaZe, just for context.
Queue up.
Doing it.
Queue up. What's on them?
Don't see
Behind their
them.
wall. We take. They're on the
Taking
far
queue
left. They're on
again.
the far left. All three of them.
Yeah.
Right, that guy. 120.
Nice.
I threw an ult on it.
Hitting it back. We can play slow.
I'm batting. Watch this.
Back,
On the
back.
left again.
Just watch
Take
this.
left
Watch this.
control.
Yeah, we
Take
should.
left.
We should.
No.
Go together again.
Bang.
Bang. Crack. One.
Yeah, two behind me.
Crack.
Just on
Tackle
this
was
guy.
broken. Tackle was broken.
Green off.
Come on, Reed. You have blood on ult. You have blood on ult. You win this.
He's playing behind it knock. He's not healing. He has no bats. He's hitting cells and he's cracked on red.
Green off.
You have my knock. You have my knock. He's still hitting cells.
Back to back wins. Couple of kills sort of in between. Off a lobby adjustment. Understanding that we can't play zone because it's not working for us. We understand it's an ape fest towards the end too. Clear our entire side of zone. Textbook.
I mean,
Okay. Last bit is sort of advice from me on sort of the go to pro route, at least on paper. Obviously, you guys can ask me more questions in a moment. You gotta understand, right? I've been doing this for 4 years. I've been on teams that basically paid me little to nothing, right? Kind of getting to the spot where I'm more comfortable. You gotta learn how to hold your own mechanics, right? Always try to make sure that you're up to par with your decisions and your mechanics. Consistently play as many scrims, tournaments, ranked as you can. There's things like Battlefy. There's things, out there that can give you information to what tourney's going on. Wikipedia is honestly even a good source too. Ranked is openly available to anybody. Scrims is plenty of options. VNM even small things like that. In VNM you probably play ranked and stuff like that. That's a lobby adjustment lesson you could probably use. But make sure you network, find that dedicated team to play with, record everything you're doing, stream everything you're doing. You want to have VODs. You want to be able to let other players scout you and look at you, right? Watch other players. Make sure you're taking in notes from Hal, from Vayne, from Onmu, whoever it is. Okay, look at other players, see what they're doing, see what you can use from their lessons and things that they've already learned. Like, be a person who absorbs history rather than has to go through all the trial by fire all the time. And lastly, just be reflective, right? Understand that everything you do has to come with a purpose. You want to go work on your team fights, your communication, whatever. Be specific about those goals. Write them down. Acknowledge them with your team. Be reflective on what your actual issues are. Be open, right? The moment that you close your mind off and you think you know something is going wrong with your team, you think you know exactly what it is, or you have the idea, and you don't kind of like open it up and really think about it, it's not going to help you. You're just going to be stuck. Plenty of T2 players in my head right now that like I interacted with way back, like, in year 3, year 2, still T2, or they just left the scene because they're just not reflective.